This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 20th meeting of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners. Randy, if we could get things started with a roll call first, please.
Sure. Commissioner Wall? Here. Commissioner Long? Here. Commissioner Seton? Here. Commissioner Kelly?
Here.
And Commissioner Morgan?
Here. Very good. The gang's all here. Next, if we could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get things started tonight, Randy, would you be so kind as to read the virtual meeting etiquette?
Sure. And I did want to note real quick that staff is looking into the virtual meeting rules. When these were first developed, we were on full virtual mode during the peak of COVID. Since going back to the hybrid status, we're looking to rewrite some of these guidelines and rules to make it a little bit more in tune of what's actually happening in the meeting. So I'm going to read these through tonight, and then we'll continue to work forward on updating these rules. All meetings are electronically recorded. Participants' names will not be displayed during the meeting. All participants will be required to mute their microphones when not participating in the dialogue. If a participant wants courtesy of the floor or wants to make public comment or has a question on a specific topic, they must type their name and address into the chat feature. The meeting facilitator will identify and call on the individual requesting to speak. If someone is participating via phone, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, comments once the individual has unmuted their microphone and identified themselves with their name and address. If someone has requested courtesy of the floor prior to the meeting via email, the facilitator will identify and call on the individual who has requested to speak. Public comment will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker, and these rules have been established to ensure a professional meeting environment.
Thank you, Randy. I'd also like to note that all public sessions of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners are electronically recorded, filed, and posted on board docs for the public's access. That being said, this evening, we're going to move right into our agenda. And first, I would like to note also, the Board of Commissioners did meet in executive session on October 6th to discuss personnel matters, and again this evening for legal advice right prior to this meeting. All right, that being said, we're going to move right into our agenda. And first on our agenda this evening, we have our Green Advisory Council presentation by our GAC chairman, Mr. Frank Petruccelli. Welcome, Frank. Absolutely. Get the mic, get you all mic'd up. Everybody's going to hear you. I don't think it's on.
Good evening, everybody. Are we going to show the slides on the?
We will absolutely show.
Okay. So, as most of you are aware, the Green Advisory Council has been an organization within the township for about 18 months now. We were here earlier in the year to give an update just in general on what we're doing. And tonight I'm here to talk about two initiatives that we've been working on, and we need some board input as to how we should proceed on these. So that's the reason for the presentation tonight. First slide is just reiterating our mission, and we don't have to read the whole thing, but the key word here is advise. So we're an advisory group. We don't have the authority to act without getting board commissioners' input. And so, we are always trying to strike that balance between doing enough homework so that we can come to the board with a meaningful proposal versus, going and getting to the point of trying to enact things, which is outside of our charter. And so clearly, we don't want to get into a situation where that's a concern. So in the next slide, there's two initiatives, as I said, that we want to talk about. We need some input from the board as to how we should proceed on these. The one is the community garden, and the other one is ordinance to look at providing alternatives for single-use plastic bags in retail establishments. So, we've been discussing both of these for, I'd say, at least 4 to 6 months. And, we believe both of these initiatives are well within our charter and proposals that we feel very strongly, unanimously as a group that we recommend moving forward on. So, again, here to get some input from the board on those ideas. So we'll do the community garden first, and then we'll talk about the ordinance after that. So, some of the reasons that we're considering community garden is that food insecurity, even in South Whitehall Township, Parkland School District where I reside, that's an issue for a large number of families. Particularly, with, I just work with Parkland Cares and one of the food banks in the area, and one of the things I hear repeatedly is that access to fresh food is really a challenge for a lot of these families who are in need. If you go into the pantry of Parkland Cares, I mean, there's a lot of packaged goods there, which is great, but they really try very hard to get fresh food, fruits, vegetables, meat for these families as well. So one of the motivations for community garden is that we could provide a source of those fresh fruits and vegetables. What we're talking about tonight, though, is just a small pilot project, and we've been in conversations with Debbie Jack, who's in charge of the Parkland Library, and she's very interested in working with us to do a small pilot project somewhere on the grounds here in the township. We have a couple locations near the library that we've discussed, and we've been working also in partnership with the West Downtown Rotary Club, who has a Green Thumbs project where they already have a community garden and are interested in possibly expanding that into our township. So the idea would be to start with this pilot, which would be 6 to 8 raised beds. And so the picture there shows, what a raised bed looks like. We have a couple locations, as I said, on the grounds here that we're considering. So there's some infrastructure here. There's fencing over by the yard waste disposal area. There's access to water. So we could do this project here with pretty minimal investment from the township to at least get it started. Obviously, 6 to 8 raised beds isn't going to be a lot of produce to harvest, but it is a starting point, and we have looked at some alternative sites as well where we could expand this concept. But we thought the prudent approach would be to try to do something small, something that we can get funded from grants that the library has and grants that the Rotary Club has, and we could get this kicked off and possibly get something started in the spring of next year. So I think that's everything for this slide. So let's go to the next slide. So the other idea we want to talk about tonight is alternatives to single-use plastic bags. I mean, they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. We all use them, and they are a great convenience. But as the first bullet points out, 100 billion plastic bags are thrown out annually in the U.S. Very few are recycled, and so we have concern that this is a source of plastic waste that is getting out of control, but one that we can possibly help mitigate with a measure. So we're not alone in considering something like this, as many local and state governments have already enacted ordinances. Several municipalities in Pennsylvania. There's 3 that have ordinances on the books already. Several more are considering them. Bethlehem has one in front of their city council right now. The legislature had prohibited such ordinances due to the pandemic. That prohibition is scheduled to end in December. So if we were to move forward with something, we would have the authority to implement it. We have talked with an environment and environmental advocacy group about some preliminary ordinance language. We have the draft of the Bethlehem ordinance as well that we could use. So we have some good templates that we could start from if we wanted to move forward with this. We had discussed this with a few of the commissioners earlier this year, and one of the suggestions was that we go out and survey the business community in the township. And we tried to do that. We got about several hundred surveys that we sent out, but only got about 15 back. So it really wasn't a representative reply, and so, there's really not much we can draw from that. We are aware that when Bethlehem did this, they did surveys from businesses, and they said that they got over 80% approval for moving forward from the businesses. So, if necessary, I can try to get some more detailed information on that, but it does suggest that there is a supportive atmosphere for doing this even within the business community. So those are the ideas, and then so if we go to the next slide, what we really want to do is talk about each one of those tonight with the board. So we can start with community garden. First question is the board supportive of us moving forward with this as an initiative? If not, what are your specific concerns? And then, if you do have concerns, what would you like to see us do to address those concerns? So with that, I'll stop here and ask for some feedback.
So Frank, I want to thank you very much for giving this presentation, and I think I'm thrilled to hear about the community garden and the shift. I know originally we had talked about a larger project, and which is fantastic, but maybe probably not quite in our grasp right now. So tailoring it back to a pilot project, and most importantly, a project in conjunction with the library, I think is phenomenal. Because the key to this wasn't just to have a garden, but it was an education piece.
Right.
So I think partnering with the library keeps that education piece, which we had originally talked about with the school district, but it's a gateway into maybe even getting further into that down the road. What I really like too, which is kind of twofold, is we worked really hard as a GAC group to look at all the different green initiatives right here on our campus. And we made a point of pointing them all out, I think even within our website. So this is just another addition to those green initiatives, kind of hitting two birds with one stone. So I think it's fantastic. And I'm thrilled that the library is willing to want to work on this.
And the concept we're proposing is, hopefully one that the board will see as requiring a minimal commitment at this point, to at least just get the idea off the ground.
So, I know one of the thoughts, I think Commissioner Kelly was concerned about, I don't want to speak for you, Diane, but was how much energy or effort was it going to take by township staff to maintain this? So maybe you can speak to a little bit, or Randy, I know you sat in on maybe some of those discussions, the thought of now that we have somebody at the refuse and recycling, from a watering standpoint, that there really would be no additional efforts or costs too much by the town.
There is water in the facility down there off of the new driveway coming out Ridgeview. So there's the utilities are already conveniently located. If the site inside the yard waste center was chosen as that potential location, keep in mind there's already a fence around it, so that also limits costs. But I think overall the utilities are there to help support it, and some of the infrastructure is already in place.
And then we've identified a number of groups who are willing to provide volunteer labor to maintain it.
Herb, did you have any thoughts or concerns about this potential pilot project?
No, I don't have anything. The Yard and Garden Center would actually be perfect because we do have the spray irrigation that comes on periodically throughout the day, over the evening, in the early morning, which we could line those heads up to help water the garden also. So it would basically be no manpower to us at all if we just realigned the one head.
Are there other thoughts or questions from the board on this pilot project?
I do. First, I would like the members of the GAC to raise their hand so we can acknowledge them. Thank you. And forgive me for not knowing. The manager of the library is here, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. Frank, you and I have similar backgrounds, so I can't help myself. As if we were asking to fund an R&D program, or in my case, a capital project. So I know you're here talking about the pilot plan. Could you describe the long-term vision where the pilot plan fits in? I know this is the first step, but you must have talked about if this goes ahead, it's successful, what might be next step, a larger step or an end game?
So we talked about two larger plots that we could take advantage of for a future garden. One was near a vacant plot near Pratzer Elementary School, and as Corey mentioned, the idea was to try to couple that with the school district and really build up an educational component of that. The other potential would be to incorporate it in the Kohler Ridge project. And, carve out some space in that facility for a community garden. So, it probably, we're talking about 6 to 8 raised beds here. We'd probably, ultimately be considering a full-scale community garden that might be, 5 to probably not to 10, 5 to 10 times larger. I think would be an ultimate project that we want to propose. And, the idea is that what we're talking about now is something we can get in the ground and get up and running in the spring. There's no grant money we have to pursue. We already have some funding that's available to us, and that will give us time to prove out the concept. And, we would look to, maybe come back for a proposal with a larger project no sooner than, I would say, probably maybe a year from now, probably more like 2 years.
Could you just say a few more words about the education program aspect of this? What is the education that's being provided and who's the audience?
Actually, Debbie, you're probably better positioned to answer that question than I am.
Hello,
Welcome, Debbie.
thank you. So concerning programming, what we were hoping to do was have some intergenerational programming with our members. We would include story time participants, so the little ones, grade school, and adults. So the adults would work with the kids and be able to teach them about how to start a garden, maintain a garden. And it was also a way to bring the community together to work.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So I'm not familiar with these gardens at all. Can you say a few words about roles and responsibilities? So we're the township, if we give approval, and you're saying there's not much money involved, if anything, there's some staff effort. But here's the part I don't know. Who operates this? Who does the gardening? It's my thought prior to this meeting was I always thought community gardens was the land was turned over to citizens and they do gardening and they get the benefits by raising their own produce. Your description here sounds like somebody else is going to be doing that and maybe providing food to others.
Yeah, so I mean, for this particular project, we looked to the West Downtown Rotary Club, and Gail, like was here from the West Downtown Rotary Club, they run the project. This I guess it's near Cedarbrook, right? Is where you have your existing community garden, and Gail has assured us that there's enough volunteer labor available through the Rotary. I mean, I'm part of another Rotary Club that I know we could provide some volunteer labor to support this. And so the idea would be to try to staff it entirely with volunteer labor. If we get to a larger project down the road, it's likely we'd want to have a garden manager, and that might be a part-time paid position, which is another reason why we want to propose the pilot first and kind of prove the concept for coming back to a larger project, because there will be more resources and more commitment from the township required to do the larger project. So, we want to show a success and make it easy for the board to say, yeah, we should do more of this, right? And that's the idea.
So that's my last question, actually. So you go into this with some goals, right? What does success look like? You could say qualitatively or quantitatively.
Yeah.
What does success for this pilot garden look like?
So success is that it's well maintained, it's appealing to the eye. Obviously, we want to grow some fruit and vegetables that we can provide to the residents. So it's going to be more of a qualitative idea. But I mean, if you go to the Cedarbrook site, there's some community gardening there that looks awful. I mean, just to be honest. And so, lack of maintenance, lack of upkeep becomes readily apparent. And so, we want to show that we can support a community garden with volunteer labor, primarily volunteer labor, and show that we can, maintain this in a way that everybody, including the board, is happy with. And that would be what we consider success.
Something tells me Debbie's going to make sure this is aesthetically pleasing.
We would hope we all make sure it's aesthetically pleasing, right?
Especially.
I think too, something to keep in mind is, we don't have to look too far into the future. We may find if this pilot project is, well, hopefully, and it will be a success, maybe a moderate garden, maybe it's not as 10 times the size in the future. Maybe it's only 5 times the size in the future because it's the best size for South Whitehall. So, I mean, I think success is going to build over time in how big or how small we would want it to be. And honestly, it's not even just the produce that you would get out of that garden. I think ultimately the success would also be determined by the education piece that comes out of it as well. And that's really key because GAC is truly trying to figure out ways to educate the community and the public on green initiatives, and the garden is just one.
But, and I mean, we're well aware that where we're asking the position of garden is sort of part of the centerpiece and the showcase for the township. So, we want to make sure that we are respectful of that and that we put something in that the township can be proud of.
I don't have any particular questions, Frank. First of all, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I'm fully supportive. I had the privilege of growing up here in South Whitehall and also was blessed to live on a property that I could have a garden. I grew up, with my dad gardening throughout the spring and summer, and so I know not everyone has that opportunity.
Sounds like we have a volunteer.
But not everyone has that same opportunity, whether they live in a home that doesn't have that land, and so I think it's a great initiative and fully supportive of that.
I have a few comments as well. Thank you for your presentation tonight. Thank you for all the members for the hours that you give volunteering on the GAP committee. I do attend the meetings. You are delving into some interesting areas that are important to the township. This particular initiative, I have to say, I do have a concern about it being in the yard and waste center, just because from a traffic perspective, there's a lot of large vehicles that come in there with trailers on the back, a lot of yard clippings. Personally, I think it would be a good idea to look something like this to maybe down at Covered Bridge Park, where it would be more in a park setting and away from blacktop and vehicles coming in and out. But the timing of this recommendation to the board, we're right at the beginning of redoing our comprehensive plan for parks, recreation and open space in the township. And I think this is something that we definitely should talk about to see where it fits. We're also on the cusp of beginning to talk at the end of November on the Kohler Ridge Park and what that's going to look like, what the community feedback was. We don't have that yet. So I appreciate this initiative. I think it has a lot of merit in the future. I think it's something that we should factor in as we move forward. We budgeted in the new year to study our parks and open space, and I like the area down at the Covered Bridge that is it the mill house that we own down there. I actually drove by there today, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to use that space in the backyard there and somehow connect it in with the park itself. So that was just some of my initial thoughts. I think we need to look at our broader picture as we move forward, because we're at 11 or 12 years into our current park, rec, and open space plan. So it's something that I think we need to address, and I appreciate the work that you've done to bring this to the board.
I will say that, I mean, if we consider another location, then it's going to require more of a commitment to the township to move that forward, right? Because it won't be the infrastructure we have in the site we're proposing, so just want to make.
And I think the point was to have it near the library for their programs.
Yeah, I mean, some of the education component would be possibly compromised.
I truly believe that as a pilot, it's a good spot to start. Once you grow, maybe going into, might be better for everybody. Two questions. One, who benefits from all the programs?
Well, a couple ideas there. I mean, we would certainly look to donate to local food pantries, parking cares in particular. Debbie's mentioned that, people who come to the library can just go pick some produce if they want. So, that would be an option that we consider as well.
It's all donated.
Sorry?
It's all donated. Everything's being donated.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the idea. And again, I mean, we're not, for a pilot like this, we're not talking about a substantial amount. So,
And then the other question I had.
I mean, if you were considering this as a potential profit center for the township.
The other question I have is what kind of hours of operation?
Well, again, we haven't really worked through all those details, but, we have to be cognizant of the fact that if we put it where we're proposing, the gate's going to be locked at certain hours, and so we have to, make sure the volunteers are available.
You'll accommodate to whatever.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
On this particular community garden topic, so that we can, keep them clear, we talk about the ones at hand. Is there any other questions or comments from the board?
I just have one quick comment to build on Diane's. I did have a thought down the road of what might a good location be. I mean, surely land owned by someone in the township, is a no-brainer. It's also an opportunity for a private property owner to donate some land for this purpose. I'll just throw that out there as a possibility for the future.
No, that's a good thought, and we certainly are, again, approve the pilot, and then we can talk about how we expand the program and all the options are on the table now. Yeah.
Are there any questions from the public on this particular, the community garden? Gail, do you mind coming to the mic?
I just want to make a comment as the director of the current garden at the community gardens near Dorney Park. One of the things that has really touched me is this started out as a very small project. And during 2 summers, it has grown. And one of the things that Michael asked about is how are you going to measure this? How are you going to measure the success? And one of the things that I look at when I'm measuring the success of this project is the number of people that have become involved with it, and the children and what they're getting out of it, and the relationships that have formed over the past 2 years has been absolutely incredible. We just had over 20 kids and 5 adults show up on Sunday to clean up the gardens, and it was such a super fun day. The kids were amazing, and these kids are actually from the Northwestern Interact Club. They are now looking at a garden project in their school district. What I love about the garden project is the inspiration that has come from people that have gotten involved with it. And based on that, I really think that starting small with this, you're going to find a tremendous amount of inspiration coming from the people that get involved with the library project. And I have big dreams about what this could be, but I do agree with Frank, starting small and starting is like planting seeds. So if we plant those seeds, let's see what grows. It's going to happen. It's going to take on a life of its own. We'll know where it's going to go just based on the involvement that we get in the community. So just wanted.
Thank you. Thanks, Gail. I think, honestly, I think we're at a unique point in this discussion on the community garden. I think there's no doubt that everybody agrees it's a fantastic concept and idea. I think what's unique for us tonight and during this time is, although I respect what Mike and Diane are saying about maybe there's another spot, or maybe if we're going to be bigger, it should be somewhere else. But what we have in front of us right now is the opportunity to run a pilot project, a small project, to see if it'll even take root and grow right with the library, which will give them the educational piece to help us with. It truly would be a win-win for the township to meet our green initiatives, to create education, community outreach, and also give this garden project the opportunity to kind of take root. It's kind of perfect to fit right in. So with that being said, I personally would like to make a motion to allow the community garden project as described, pilot project. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, we have another question from the audience. Please, absolutely, approach the mic, it's all yours.
Richard Ware, 876 Nittany Court. For the project, has there been any presentation yet as to the preliminary budget and cost for the trial program? And going forward, presuming it might move towards a more formal program, any pro formas budget-wise, possibly year one, year two of the enhanced program?
Thank you, sir. I think as Frank had explained, go ahead, Frank. Yep.
So with the pilot program, I mean, we're talking about funding it exclusively with volunteer labor and grant money that the library already has and the Rotary Club already has. We have developed budgets for the larger garden project. We're talking about, probably an annual expenditure in the, low tens of thousands of dollars. So that's another reason why we're not proposing that tonight, right? Is that we want to show that the concept works, because there will be some financial commitment from the township if we move to a larger project. Does that answer the question?
Partly, I was really looking for the dollar outlay year one for the project.
But again, I mean, we're going to build it with,
Including, potential part-time employee.
No, we're not for the pilot, they're not looking for any employees.
we had talked about a garden manager as a part-time position for the larger project that we were considering at near Craftsman. But we won't require that for a project small. It would be just volunteer labor. Again, if we can't maintain it with just volunteer labor, then that would be, we would have to stop at that point, wouldn't forward the larger project.
So really, Frank, what you're looking for is the opportunity to initiate a pilot project with really no investment money-wise from the township, just the support of the area. If the pilot project is a success, then you would come back to the board with a, like Mr. Ware had said, a more detailed plan on how to expand on the program. But you're really only looking at the pilot project tonight.
Yeah, and this is phase one, and all we're asking for is approval of phase one. We would come before the board with a separate proposal if we were consider expanding this and moving forward with another location.
So then my motion would be to move forward with phase one at no cost to the township other than some of the simple labor costs for watering or something like that.
The water would actually be free. It's all rainwater that is held in the pond through the irrigation system, and then it's just pumped out of the pond back into the field. So it would all just be recycled water. It wouldn't be tap water.
And is that water, does it sit there for a while and is it clean to be put on top of a garden that's going to be?
Yeah, it's just rainwater, yeah.
Right, but as it sits there and drains out, are there any oils or chemicals around that would leach into the water? I mean, we're using it to produce food and then people will eat.
No, it's just to safe for a kid to go roll around in the grass and play on it. It's not going to hurt anything.
And to Mr., thank you for your question, Mr. Ware. There was mention of a public works person who tends the lawn and garden facility, helping out at times. That facility is not open every day during the summer, is that correct?
It is open on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday in the summer.
So what will happen on the off days when there's no staff person there? Are we going to have it open for just the library to go in? And how do we
Well, if the library would
Track.
call, they could call and schedule it with me and I can make sure the gate's open. And then when we would just set a schedule, if they're gonna be there for an hour or two, and then when we're done, we could just relock the gate again.
So I'd just like to reiterate, just because I've been to the yard waste a number of times, with children coming into generational story time, it's a concern to have pedestrians in that area when you've got large vehicles with a lot of brush coming off. Just something to consider. I mean, this sounds like a good program. I don't know that having it in the yard waste area is necessarily the best.
What you
safest
could
way.
do is propose that if they are gonna do teachings there, you do it after 3 o'clock, because Yard and Garden closes at 3 o'clock. And then in the summer, it's daylight till 8 o'clock and all that. So I think there would be a way that we could work the timing out where Yard and Garden would be closed for them to have their class.
I think there's a lot of logistics, but certainly we're not going to have all the logistics figured out tonight, but I think they're all doable. And quite honestly, again, that's why you call it a pilot program. If it's not going to work, nothing ventured, nothing gained, is quite honestly how I look at it. And if you have willing parties willing to give this a chance and try and make it work, the library, the Rotary, citizens, and the township support, I see no harm in trying to see if we can make this pilot project work. If there's concerns about safety with the location, Herb, I'm sure you can work with the library. You guys can determine the best physical spot for it that makes sense. Honestly, I don't think these are hurdles that can't be overcome.
Commissioner
For the
Morgan,
greater good.
thanks for your comments on safety. So as many of you know, I believe that public safety is township's highest priority and commitment we need to make to our citizens, especially citizens of all ages who could be exposed here to some unsafe conditions that Commissioner Kelly has outlined. I like the idea that we ought to be able to figure it out, but I think ought to be able to is good enough. So what I'd like to request, and I hope you'll agree, that between Frank and whoever else is in the lead role on this pilot plan and the right person from the township, perhaps it's her, I think we need a written safety plan that's reviewed and agreed before anything moves forward, okay? Even if there's an approval to move forward tonight, I think it's imperative to have that plan. So all these things we're saying tonight, we're just sort of, giving out some great ideas. I think it should be written down, time of day, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, hours of operation, when's the library operating, what's the traffic flow, what's the logistics. And in my mind, how are we protecting the 4-year-old that's going to be in close proximity to cars and pickup trucks coming in and out of that garden center? That has to be first and foremost on everybody's mind and the top goal that we have here.
I like that, Commissioner Walker. I like that idea. So I'm gonna modify my motion.
Can I add one thing to Mr. Ware's question? I thought he raised a good question about just having an understanding in writing of the South Whitehall Township role, clearly define the library's role, funding. I think it should be written out so we've got an understanding that's actually a document and not just ideas that we present at a meeting. I think it would be wise to, if this is going to move forward, it needs to formalize, cover the concerns that were raised tonight.
So then I would make a motion that we move forward with the concept with the understanding that we have a safety plan provided and a formal role directive provided as well that would go along with it. But from the conceptual idea, I would make a motion that we move forward with the phase 1 of the project only, not a larger concept, just phase 1 as discussed tonight, with those 2 documents in place before anything could move forward. That would be my motion.
As we're just being presented with this for the first time tonight, is there a reason why we wouldn't just have these documents brought back to us for review and approval?
Because I think at this point, they've come in front of us numerous times. I think unless there's something major wrong with those documents, I see no reason why conceptually we couldn't agree to move forward. Any details in those documents that might be an issue, I would assume staff could handle with addressing. So I hold my motion.
I do disagree. This is the first time we've had a formal presentation on the garden, and I do thank you for preparing it.
I'll second the motion.
So we do have a motion on the floor with the caveats of having those documents in place prior to any movement forward from the board. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Morgan, and we have a second from Commissioner Long. I have a roll call vote, Commissioner.
Commissioner Wong?
I'd like to ask for clarification. The motion is to move forward without those documents. Can we have a commitment? We move forward, if we approve this, move forward. There's got to be some time frame when the safety plan is done. Can we put some time frame on it?
End of the year?
You mean to develop the safety plan and to develop the rules? Because you would want to, yeah, you're not looking to start the project until.
No, I'm saying have those documents presented to the board for the end of the year.
All right, that's before the operation starts.
Yeah,
Yeah, we wouldn't start anything until spring.
well, that was my motion. You couldn't start the operation unless you had those documents. in place.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Wong?
Aye.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Seton?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
I am a no vote. I am in favor of exploring this and getting the documents together. I feel like we're rushing to not have what we need in front of us to make a full decision. So at this time, no.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes. Motion carries, and although I respect Commissioner Kelly's comments, I think once we have those documents in place, I don't see any other reason why you guys would have to keep coming in front of the board. I think the concept is what we really needed to agree to tonight. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for all you do. We look forward to seeing those documents prior to any work getting done, and I'm quite certain staff will work closely with you if you have questions on this.
Although we do love seeing you come back.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We have to go back if necessary.
So let's move to the next one then.
Yes. So the other idea that we talked about is potential ordinance to provide some alternatives to use plastic bags. As I said, it's something that other municipalities locally and across the state and actually across the country have already implemented or are considering. We feel that this addresses a pretty significant plastic waste issue. And so, we want to get some feedback. I mean, we have been doing some homework, but again, we're an advisory group, so wanted to kind of get the, take the temperature of the board on this initiative before we go too far.
All right, this got tailored back. I mean, I wasn't at the last ACT meeting. I apologize for the board meeting, but this was originally when it was presented to us as a concept, it was all, wasn't it straws and everything? This is now,
No,
is it just only ever plastic bags?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we there's obviously other plastic, single-use plastic.
But this is only referring to the bags.
This would only be the bags that are used in retail establishments to package the groceries or items you buy at Target or something. That's all we're talking about.
Right, just two quick questions. First of all, as I understand, this isn't an actual ban, it's actually just providing an alternative. So like a business, in other words, could potentially still continue the use, but they would have to charge a customer or something of that nature.
So that's not quite correct. I mean, but again, we have the ability to tailor the ordinance to whatever we think we should require. The language that we've seen and what's been proposed on occasions is that after a period of time, there would be a ban on providing plastic, single-use plastic. There would be an alternative, typically it's a recycled paper bag that you would charge the consumer for. And, there's different lines of thought. Does the business keep that? And we've seen some ordinance language where the township actually collects a portion of that fee. And so there would be, there'd be an additional payment if we were given a paper bag. And then obviously, the ultimate encouragement would be bring a reusable bag.
And then one other quick question and comment with regards to what you're asking tonight. It's not actually an approval. This is basically.
Well, we don't have an ordinance yet, right? I mean, we're just saying it's something the township wants us to do.
And then with regards to that, because I received this information in our packet and gave a lot of thought to it. For me personally, I think sometimes it's the small things that add up to the big things, not just in this, but in life in general. So for me personally, from my perspective, my value systems, my faith teaches me to be a steward. And so I think being a wise steward of the environment is a big part of that. And I think obviously there's certain extremes you can go. I believe that are unrealistic and burdensome to business. But with regards to this particular initiative, I think it is definitely a worthwhile step to consider that I would be open to supporting. I think I represent, I guess, a younger generation. I don't even want to say that, we're millennials. I think it's misconstrued a lot, but I think within a big spectrum of politics, younger people by and large do want to contribute to helping the environment. And like I said, I think there's extremes that we should never even discuss, but something like this would be something that I would be open to supporting.
Frank, is there the ability to do a staged approach to this, similar to what Commissioner Long said? Like, so if they, instead of a full out, I don't know if you've seen ordinances like this, a full out ban to start, can you offer like a strong initiative or a alternative for people that they would bite on to kind of get people going in the trend of not.
Well, the obvious interim step would be to charge people for plastic bag, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But so again, what we're asking tonight is just, should we, as a Green Advisory Council, should we continue to work on developing a proposed ordinance? So we would come back with that ordinance, look at what's in that, and then obviously debate, what's right for the township. And but we've been talking about this for many months as a Green Advisory Council. We think it's a good initiative to move forward, but obviously if there isn't support on the board, then we'll table this and move on to other initiatives.
I have a comment, having attended your meetings. Thank you for the work that you've done to this point. I know that you were before the board in the summer, and we asked you to send surveys to businesses, because we're here to represent the community as well as our businesses. I understand 350 businesses are here in South Whitehall. At your July meeting, of the 350 surveys that had been sent out, 9 had been returned. At that point, your board took the step to push it out further on social media and have the chamber send out emails to and help nudge people to return their surveys. So at the September 20th meeting, the survey count returned was 15. So of those, if my memory serves me right, I think about 7 were in agreement with participating with a single-use plastics ban. I question if those numbers are that low because of the climate ruin of COVID. I think the focus in our community, the financial burden on our citizens and our businesses, with the cost rising economically for goods and services, probably has something to do with the lack of responses. I researched Bethlehem, I believe they had an 80% response to their survey. So to have us as a board move forward with 7 businesses saying that they are in agreement with this, me personally, I would love to see GAF work on an education piece for both residents and businesses on responsible use of our resources, recycle, reuse, repurpose. I think there are large stores in our community that already have recycle bag facilities. I know Whole Foods over in Lomac actually gives you a discount if you bring your own bag. I think conversations with our residents about simple task of bringing your own bag as opposed to a ban and talking to our businesses about, can you switch from, a more biodegradable bag? I know there are businesses that have them that they break down much quicker, composting. And then the second part of this for me, the bag cost would be 15 cents is what the number that you've referenced. Again, we're not done with COVID. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot of disposables being used because we don't want to reuse other people's items for bacteria and virus transmission. To impose a fee at this point as well on a family who's already faced with larger grocery bills and Target and whatnot. I think the timing of it, the combination of where we are with the pandemic as well as the lack of business participation, I think we could do a better, maybe take a little bit of a different route right now and work on education and informing people of the choices that they can make every day with our, the simple things that we do. I watched the meeting that you had on Monday, and you had the young lady Hannah with the Red Wagon, who she's working to refill soaps, covered in the morning call. Those sort of things we can push out on social media to get people thinking, I think is an important thing to do until we can get a better relationship with our businesses and get more people in the business community on board with this before we impose a ban.
From the timing standpoint, though, by the time typically there's a lengthy period of transition, right? So that could be 3 months, 6 months. By the time we got an ordinance in place, even if we got the code move forward tonight, it'd be a year from now before this would be implemented. So I think from a COVID standpoint, I feel pretty comfortable saying that would not be I wouldn't expect that to be a concern at the time the ordinance would come back.
Well, again, I would hesitate to move forward as a board with only 7 businesses in our town, 250. I just think there's an opportunity to partner with our businesses from an education standpoint to begin to work as partnership as opposed to an active.
Yeah, especially, we have, larger businesses in the township are already dealing with this in, other locations. So I think we, find a pretty receptive audience in the Targets, the Giants, the Wegmans.
So Frank, from what I understand, you're saying that this is going to be a gradual transition?
The way the ordinances that we've seen are written, it's, you advertise it that this change is coming for 3 months, 6 months before you actually.
The environmental issues that we have throughout the country, the world, even though we are just 20 or roughly 20,000 residents here, I think the contribution that we can give at the very least is to remove those plastic bags. I really appreciate it.
And I will say that, I don't think we're on the leading edge here. What we're proposing. Given the precedent that other communities in state and national. So,
it's a level of contribution that we could be proud of, in my view.
Appreciate that.
Just real quick, with regards to the business owner's response, as a small business owner myself, I can say, no disrespect to a survey, but when you're a business owner, you have a million things you're trying to get done throughout the day. Responding to surveys is not going to be a top priority. So it might be really extremely difficult until we're going door to door, which would be a lot of manpower. So I can understand why the response rate would be so low.
I think we can, we can try to contact businesses through other meetings. I don't think we could do a comprehensive survey of 300 plus businesses with the resources we have, but we can certainly target some of the larger businesses. Try to talk to the manager or, talk to somebody at the regional headquarters or something like that. And try to get some more input if that's something the board would like to see.
Yeah. So I do have some comments. I'll start with, I need education. I'm not hardly educated on this at all. And as best I can make out of the subject, doing a little research online prior to this meeting and forming my questions. I'm going to come at this top down, some 10,000 foot level to start and then work my way down. I need education on the environmental science, including like the degradation issues between plastic and paper. And I need information on the economics. Not down at that it's going to cost 5 cents or 25 cents for a bag. I mean up here, if you consider the environmental science and the benefits of going one way or the other, then what are the economics associated with that? I tried to get educated real quick this afternoon. I went online and, Googled the right words, and I came up with pros and cons for banning single-use plastics. Came up with a lot on both sides. But I cut and paste this one, and it's what I need education around. You would disagree with this, but this is a source. Plastic bags actually produce less stress on the environment than the paper or cotton bags. They use less water, require fewer chemicals, and produce less greenhouse gas than the other two options. Plastic has half the carbon footprint of cotton and paper bags. It's counterintuitive to think that plastic could be less harmful than something natural like cotton. Is that really true? That's the type of information. That's the type of information I'd like to have before voting to approve an ordinance. For goodness sakes, which is going to be here, till the end of time. I think we need a little more information on this environmental science, the degradation aspects and the economics. Couple questions. Maybe you might be able to answer these, Frank. So as far as legislation goes, I think holistically, I think top down. Does the federal government have any legislation in progress on this subject to ban single-use plastics?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, me neither. Does the Pennsylvania legislation have anything in progress? I know there was this prohibition, but do they actually have anything that works the other way around where they will say we're banning?
Not in Pennsylvania, other states have done it, but not Pennsylvania.
You've noted like a couple or 3 or 4 municipalities that have enacted legislation.
Philadelphia, Narberth, and Westchester.
And so that's still a small percentage out of the whole state.
Pittsburgh is considering one, Bethlehem's considering one. People are not aware of.
What that makes me think of is, you probably learned about this from the same place I did. This concept of leaders, early adopters, early majority. It only takes for a movement, right? It only takes 16% of the population to agree. And then the movement is nonstop. So if Pennsylvania had 16% of its municipalities, then it's going to be a tidal wave and it's going to go through. My thought is we're not quite there yet with the few municipalities we have. Same principles are discussed in Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. So I think that's something to consider. I would like you to go back to more businesses, try to go back out, educate more businesses, try to get a greater response. And I guess I'll stop there. My other questions were on cost, but let's pause there.
Within our council, we've talked about, the environmental benefits and costs of paper versus plastic. And it's not clear that, a paper bag is necessarily a better alternative than a plastic bag. So, the idea would be to move people to reusable bags.
Yeah, what little I read, I got into the cost of manufacturing, the impact that the manufacturing cost of plastic versus paper has on the environment. That sort of thing. The fact that paper will take up more volume in a landfill than plastic bags will, those types of factors.
So you want to see a life cycle now?
So I guess I'm asking.
On one sheet of paper.
Do you have a study of those particular different views, obviously, the ones that Commissioner Wolf just brought up regarding the paper and the cost to make it?
We'd have to do some more. I mean, we'd like to go back to the environment and ask them to help us to generate some of that information. I know they've done some work on this, and we haven't seen everything they've done, but, we'd obviously do some independent research on our own as well, but we have to rely on some outside sources to help us with that.
Can I offer a suggestion? Maybe something to help make a decision on what movement you want to take or not take on this as a board. It sounds to me like there's interest in this single-use plastic. And an ordinance right now, no, I don't think anybody's ready for that. I don't think you're coming in front of us with us an ordinance anyways. The education piece, I absolutely agree with Diane and Mike as well. That's huge. Education is everything. But that education piece might ultimately lead us to an ordinance for the future. So if I understand correctly, what you're asking from this board tonight is this subject, not necessarily putting an ordinance in front of us in 3 to 6 months, but this subject matter. Is the board supportive of continuing research and gathering information to create, whether it is an ordinance or a plan or an education document, or do we still want to keep this on the books as something that the GAC group is going to pursue?
Right, that's all right.
That's what you're looking for. So I think to define it just as an ordinance might be too limiting. I think if we all like the concept, the environmental concept, and we all agree that it's important, what direction we take to help with this, whether it be ultimately an ordinance or an education program. Obviously, like, I'm not sure who said it now, Mike or Diane, if we need to get more survey information back, get a little more details on the cost and analysis, all those different things to help make those decisions, the GAC group can do that along with Penn Environmental. Penn Environment.
But more than that, I mean, what I heard from Mike is that, we also have to make a sense of case that it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But you need to know from this board, do we support you guys continuing research on this subject?
Right.
That's what you're looking for. So I definitely support continuing research on this subject. It sounds like there's some more research that needs to be done. Maybe the ordinance gets, in the background, that's decided upon much later, but the research and the education piece get the forefront. But I would absolutely support continuing the research on this subject because it is a very important subject matter. Is that a fair analysis?
I think so.
Okay, great.
I will support this as well. You mentioned that there are already grocery stores like Whole Foods and Trader Joe, they won't use plastic. And that's places I like to shop because of it. In terms of educational, I think it's going to be hard to convince people whether paper is better than plastic. It's a big project to make people understand and believe that one is better than the other, but good luck with that.
And again, I mean, paper doesn't have to be part of
It doesn't have to be,
right? I mean, it could be, you charge people for a plastic bag, or they have to use a bag, right? I mean,
So
so,
they all have, Whole Foods, Trader Joe, they have their own bags to purchase for power. So I'm totally supportive.
And then, from my perspective, more than just saying, you guys now go out and educate, do more surveys. I'd be more interested to see, again, some of that research to say this is why, and then some verbiage with regards to, what you would be proposing for an ordinance. That would be my perspective, whether that's, I'm not saying that it has to be in 2 weeks or whatever, but I'm just saying that would be, I'm more of a realist, so just, bring it back to the reality, say, hey, go out and do more research, go out and do, more petitioning of businesses to see what their thoughts are. The reality of some of that coming together, I think is probably slim. So I'd be more interested in see what you proposing.
Yeah, but can I make a clarification, which might change what you said. I'm not recommending new research. Research is existing. A Google search, I know displays a wealth of already existing research. So it's not new. It's just asking Frank and the team to come back with what is a summary of that? Well, please produce pros and cons. Keep it balanced. But it's not new research, Commissioner.
No, I wasn't saying, I was actually more referring to the, doing more studies with regards to other businesses. That's what I was referring to.
Okay.
So I think maybe what we could do is, are there any, before we, you're not looking for a motion tonight, you're just looking for direction from the board.
It's
On
the board
supporting the concept.
continuing to investigate.
Yes.
the
I think you got a positive approach from Commissioner Long, Commissioner Stetton, definitely from me. Commissioner Wall was agreeable, Commissioner Kelly.
I stated my opinion, but I'll restate it, that I believe that we only have 7 businesses that have agreed that this was a good idea, and I think it's imperative to educate both our public citizens as well as our businesses on the benefit of this and partnering with them as opposed to right away going to a ban. I think there's time to, we haven't done anything as a township, to my knowledge, to address this issue at all whatsoever. I think that should always be step one. And then.
Well, it sounds like step one is educating ourselves.
Ourselves, right, and the public, share this information with them in one of our township newsletters. So, hey, did you know this about plastic and paper, and begin to get people to think about it as a community.
Yeah, and there's one other aspect of that we haven't quite said. I think Commissioner Kelly's alluding to it. Whatever we decide at the end of the day, I don't want it to be an autocratic edict that is given to the businesses where they must comply. This idea of education, relationship building, trying to do this as a partnership and through those efforts is, much a better advisable approach to take.
I mean, we could certainly consider some kind of voluntary program with some incentives with it, as opposed to a ban, right? I mean, so there's lots of different directions we can go with this.
So at the end of the day, we're just looking, are we keeping this on the table to continue the not new research, but the research, the alternatives, the plan moving forward? That I think you had a consensus. I'm not sure. Are you supportive of that? Continuing the work on this project?
I believe I've stated my position twice.
So is it yes or no? Are you supportive to move forward or not? We're not looking at a ban. We're looking at continuing to keep this on the table for the GAC committee to continue to
has the ability to keep whatever they'd like to on the table. So I don't understand why the advisory board.
Because if the board is, if you're not supportive of ultimately looking at alternatives for single-use plastics, then if they didn't have our support on this subject matter, there'd be no reason for them to keep it on the table. Sounds like they have the majority of the board's support on it. I was just looking to see if we supported the concept.
I supported education. I support what Commissioner Wolf said about gathering more information about paper and cotton bags and all that, and partnering with our community and our residents. And
I think you have support. Keep it on the table.
Yeah, I'd like the clarification, so I'll clarify this. We touched on an ordinance is a possibility in the future. And me giving support for you to take these next steps, I'm not necessarily supporting an ordinance. I can't do that now. I need to.
We're not asking you to do.
Yeah, I need to. I'm just saying, I'm not projecting that if you do this work, I'll approve an ordinance in the future. And we have to go through the education.
You do the research, right? You decide how you're going to act.
I know, yeah. It's more a function of the board's understanding.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of this line of inquiry is that, we're a small group, volunteers, limited time that we can devote to this. So is this enough of a priority that the board thinks it's something we should make, commit our time? Because
Keep on the table, right?
Yeah, there's other things we can do. So there's always an opportunity cost to work on something and there's other things you can't work on. So that's really the purpose. So, you've given me great feedback on things that we need to take back to the Green Advisory Council on these topics. So I appreciate that. And I look forward to discussing both these items with you further in the future.
Before you go, Frank, I'm going to open it up to the public. If there were any comments or thoughts from the public on this particular topic? Any in the chat?
Nothing in the chat.
Frank, thank you so much for your information tonight. Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody from the GAC committee for being here tonight. All right.
Chance to respond.
Well, we have no ordinances this evening. We do have one resolution for consideration and possible action. It's a resolution granting preliminary final approval to a major plan entitled Building Addition 4815 Crackers Fork Road. Mr. Van Hart.
Hello. I will give an introduction and then hand it over to the applicant. This is an application to further develop the property located at 4815 Crackers Fork Road. The plan proposes a 13,500 square foot addition to a roughly 10,000 square foot building. No increase in impervious coverage, an actual reduction. At the August 19th, 2021 meeting, the Planning Commission recommended preliminary final plan approval to the Board of Commissioners. A big topic of discussion at that Planning Commission meeting was the sidewalk deferrals and calling in sidewalks along Crackers Fork Road. Not that that's tied into this project specifically, but that was a topic that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. We will be looking at calling in sidewalks along that location, along Crackers Fork Road. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. And we're looking at ways to formalize that process. With that, I'll hand it over to the applicant for some more details.
Hey, just to clarify, so this adjacent sidewalk islands are in no way associated with this
Correct.
plan going forward?
That, the discussion was revolved around the deferral of that sidewalk. And since there were deferrals that were adjacent to this project, it was recommended that we call it adjacent.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Welcome.
Excuse me, Chris McLean from Patrick Linson Group on behalf of the applicant. The very brief history of this project is accurately summarized. We've seen the resolution and review letters, take no issues with any of them. And as Mr. Adams points out in his memos to the board, staff is recommending approval. And Mr. Talbot's October 7th letter also recommends engineering approval. We have representatives from the developer here, from the business side, engineering, and also from the proposed tenant as well, if the board has any specific questions about the plan or proposed operations. But otherwise, we have submitted the signed acceptance conditions and expect to request approval.
Yes, thank you. Any questions for?
I do. For Chris and maybe others. These are all status questions. So in our package on page 18, Pitcock item 5, Tony, could you explain the LCD requirements, and could you and Chris explain whether the requirements are resolved?
Based upon that ordinance reference, submission to the Lehigh County Conservation District is required. There's a memo of understanding between the township and the district that every plan, regardless of size, is submitted to the district, reviewed, and then an approval is granted.
Is that approval in place, or that's something in the future?
We do not have that approval. That was not submitted to our office.
Okay. All right. On page 27, these are in the Greg Adams summary. There's 3 items on water and sewer. Water and sewer application fees, connection fees, and contributions. Are all of those items resolved?
I believe they're reviewing the allocations to understand if an allocation is actually required. So that is generally done before plan recording. The tapping fees are generally done at building permit stage, which is after plan recording. And I don't believe there's any contributions to be had for this project.
So the first two are done at a later phase?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Greg Adams document, page 27, for the Pennsylvania DEP requirements defined and resolved.
So I don't have the same numbering we do, which comment?
Okay. It's, let me go find it. Sorry.
My letter, page 2 of 3. It's a sewage facilities plan.
Yeah, the planning module is required.
Parties benefit payments, engineering, process of preparing the sewage facilities planning model.
Okay. Now Greg can help me find it. This was actually a reference to the Pennsylvania DEP requirements. It wasn't the module.
Commissioner Walker, I could have it up on the screen here. So it's page 27 of your packet.
Yeah, it's on page 27. Right? I can't.
The number is a little bit because of number 2 to page 27. The first number 2.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Thanks.
Yeah, and that is sewage facilities plan.
So is all of that resolved, or is that future work?
That's an outside agency approval, has to be done before the plan recording.
Okay. And lastly, same page, is the erosion and sediment control plan complete?
And I believe that was addressed earlier.
That ties back into the question you had for the township engineer about the
All right.
CCD review.
All right, so it's redundant. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for anybody?
I just had a question in regards to sidewalks. Township, all of this futuristic.
For this project, the planning commission recommended denial of the deferral for our project. So we are proposing sidewalks. So escrow is part of any of the other public.
Any other questions from the board? Tony, did you have anything else you wanted to add? No. Any questions from the public? Any in the chat?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. Anything else from your team? All right. So that being said, do I hear a motion to move forward granting preliminary final approval to a major plan entitled Building Addition 4815 Fort Road? So moved. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Walk. Can I have a roll call, please?
Sure, Commissioner Walk. Aye. Commissioner Long.
Yes.
Commissioner Stetton.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly.
Aye.
And Commissioner Morgan.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night. All right, next this evening for consideration and possible action, we have a motion to approve the 2022 minimum municipal obligation, MMO. Randy or Scott, there you are. You're going to start out with one of those intros like we did last time? We got to top that one.
No.
In a land far, far away,
Imagine the world.
imagine a world.
As you know, the township has several pension plans. Per Act 205, which governs our activities surrounding pension plans and all activity with pension plans in the state of Pennsylvania, we are required to deposit money into our pension plans every year. That deposit is called a minimum municipal obligation. So what we have for tonight is a motion to approve the values for the MMO for 2021.
And this is the amount of money that will be deposited into the plan for next year. So there's a calculation that determines which amount the MMO is based on. It's reviewed by an actuary, and that should be in your packet as well. The amount that we have to be deposited are $688,000 for the office pension plan, $1,083,000 for the police pension plan, $628,000 for the public works pension plan, and $127,000 for the defined contribution pension plan. I don't have any other info on that.
Just to reiterate, these numbers were calculated in-house and then passed along to our actuary, Conrad Siegel, who did look at these numbers and confirm that they were indeed accurate.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Randy. Is there any questions from the board on this MMO obligation?
I just have a question on the process. When we send it over to the actuary, do they actually take our detailed financial documents to confirm that what we calculated are the numbers that are due, or do they just do more of a cursory review of our?
I can't speak for what the actuary does in-house.
Do we submit backup data to
them for these calculations?
support the numbers that we have here? I'm just curious in general.
I'd have to check with Stu on that in the payroll.
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick, obvious question. These monies that are being deposited, will they be in the 2022 budget, right?
That's correct.
The answer is obviously yes.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from the board? Any from the public? Any in the chat?
Nothing in the chat.
All right, with no other questions, do I hear a motion to move forward to approve our 2022 minimum municipal obligation? So moved. A motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Walk. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Randy?
Sure. Commissioner Walk? Aye. Commissioner Long? Yes. Commissioner Seton? Yes. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And Commissioner Morgan?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Scott. All right, so next this evening, we have under correspondence and information items. One second here. We have some upcoming meeting dates, which I'll touch on. Thursday, October 21st, that's tomorrow, we have a planning commission meeting at 7:30. Monday, October 25th, we have a landscape shade and tree commission meeting at 10 a.m. Monday, October 25th, also, we have the continuation of the BOC conditional use hearing, Premier Center Luxury Apartments at 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 26th, we have a Board of Commissioner budget workshop at 4 p.m. Wednesday, we have October 27th, we have a zoning hearing board at 7 p.m. Monday, November 1st, we have a public safety meeting, commission meeting at 7 p.m. We have some really great events coming up. On Friday, October 22nd, we have the Township Spectacular event. That is down at Covered Bridge Park. On Saturday, October 23rd, we have our DEA National Pharmaceutical Take Back event. And on Friday, October 29th, date everybody waits for all year, trick or treat. And I believe, do we start at 6 or do we change that to 5? So it's back at 6, okay. So it's 6 to 8, correct? Correct. All right, and that's on our website. I'll also note, we still have some vacancies. I did get a list of some applicants, so we're going to start to plan some interviews here in the very near future. Civil Service Commission, we have 1 vacancy, it's an alternate position. Landscape Shade and Tree Commission, we have 2 vacancies. Park and Rec Board, 1 vacancy. Zoning Hearing Board, 1 vacancy, which is an alternate position. Randy, did you have anything else you wanted to add to We have an action-packed couple of weeks. If you're bored any evening, there's any number of meetings you could join us at. Feel free. All right.
I have the Finance Committee summary. The board's well aware of all these items. Good idea to keep this out in front of the public at each meeting. First, I want to thank Randy Cope, serving as our interim township manager, and Scott Barrett as our financial director. I'm going to run through these items, and this is not only what they're doing. They have an incredible workload, and it's all pinched up at this time of the year with the budget, with the bond financing, with the audits being complete. They're doing an incredible amount of work. They're doing an excellent job. I personally thank you as commissioner, member of the Finance Committee, and I think we all share that opinion. So here goes. Fund balance policy. There's a new proposed fund balance policy in progress. It'll require general fund, unassigned fund balance between 20 and 30%. And it will also define minimum balance for the water, sewer, and refuse funds. Regarding the 2022 budget, as Commissioner Morgan said, the last workshop is next Tuesday, October 26th. And then the actual first and second reading of the budgets will occur at the VOC meetings on November 3rd and November 17th. Regarding the 2020 audit, the auditor will present the audit report to the Finance Committee next Wednesday, the 27th, and to the VOC on the next VOC meeting, November 3rd. Regarding the 2016 through 2020 audit deficiency corrective actions, third-party assistance will be required to complete that work. At the last VOC meeting, we authorized an initial $10,000, which would be used for the initial contract service work. Regarding internal controls audit, our auditor had recommended that we should complete an internal controls audit to ensure that a complete definitive list of deficiencies has been identified. The Township, Maine, and Scott is having discussions with the auditor to develop the best path forward in the scope of work. Regarding financial management improvements, our Finance Committee recognizes the need to make overarching improvements on the Township financial management. Next step for the committee is to define the goals and the scope of work. And the last item for the 2021 bond financing, 2 days ago, the board approved financing in the amount of $13.1 million. That includes two pieces. The first is $12.5 million for the campus renovation and two prior outstanding loans that were taken in 2014 through 2018. And the other piece is $600,000 for wares, dam repairs, and/or other capital projects. And I believe when Scott gives his report, he'll tell us more about the 2021 bond financing and the good news there.
Thank you, Mike. That being said, we'll move right into our department reports. So let's start with community development. Mr.
Commissioner
Manhart.
Morgan, we do have some old business to discuss real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Old business. Where's
Oh,
the-
I apologize. I skipped right over that. Yes.
Not a very big
Where's Sam?
update. Just to let everybody know, we still have not heard back from DCNR in terms of our grant application that we did submit for Wares Dam. I don't have any other formal update from our engineers in terms of the permitting process, but I do know they're diligently working on moving that forward. And Commissioner Walk already touched on the bond financing to help support that project.
So if I may, on Monday, as Commissioner Walk was stating, we did approve a loan to accommodate the debt of roughly $12.5 million and an additional $600,000 that was categorized as capital improvements. But the intent was to use it for the Wares Dam repairs as per the will of the people by referendum. I would like to make a motion to allocate the whole $600,000 for the raise dam only in the event that that the cost is going to be less than that, that the rest can go to other capital improvements. I'll make a motion for that.
Well, I had actually a question about that. There was discussion on Monday evening regarding borrowing the money for Weir's Dam, and I had brought up at that time that the voters had approved to actually go into debt for 5 years, and I actually went back and found the actual referendum language, and I guess this question would also be for Mr. Zader to assure that the township is complying. The referendum question said, shall debt in the cumulative sum of $600,000 be borrowed over a period of 5 years for the purpose of financing the restoration and maintenance of Weir's Dam, be authorized to be incurred as debt approved by the electors. What we did on Monday night was approve 20 years of debt for a $600,000 project. I had made a recommendation on Monday that we have already earmarked $200,000 in a restricted fund, the specific purpose of the Weir's Dam restoration. And we need now an additional $400,000 to complete this project. Our township fund at this time, fund balance is in excess of $6 million. It would make sense to me to comply with the 5-year periods that the referendum had asked of the electorate to pay for this project with the $200,000 we have already earmarked and use $400,000 of our fund balance to comply and not stretch this out over a 20-year period for paying for this project.
I support Commissioner Kelly's comment and position on this. And yes, this is repeating things we discussed two nights ago. The referendum, the exact language is the voters approved the township to take a loan up to $600,000, right? That's different than saying they told us to borrow $600,000, period. And I think Commissioner Keller makes a good point that if we want to be consistent with the referendum, the terms or the duration of the loan should be consistent as well. And the last point, agreeing with Commissioner Kelly, we have this large fund balance. Actually, at the end of 2020, it was $7.8 million. We haven't seen the end of 2021 balance sheet yet. But based on what has happened over this past year, it may be even higher. $7.8 million is 48% of our revenue, right? And we're, as I said earlier, our policy, proposed policy will be between 20 and 30%. So we can draw down $3 million and still be at 30%. And then we have ARPA money, which we'll be discussing tomorrow, another 2%. We have $5 million that we can use for capital projects and still have 30% fund balance. We can use that money, as Commissioner Kelly said, on Weir's Dam.
So.
And I just, for one moment, I had asked Mr. Zader to please weigh in just regard to the actual language of referendum.
I'll be glad to. First, let me start by saying there are several different types of municipal debt that are authorized by law. The referendum that took place several years ago was specifically aimed at what is sometimes referred to as electoral debt. And the result of that referendum is, as Commissioner Kelly outlined a moment ago. The action the board took Monday night with respect to the bond issue
for the roughly 12 point some odd million plus $600,000 was for a bond issue. That is a different type of debt. And therefore, the fact that it has a longer period of payback rather than 5 is technically irrelevant, because by choosing to fund Wares Dam in part, or perhaps in whole if we're fortunate, but to fund it perhaps in part by $600,000 from the bond issue, was really funding Wares Dam through a different mechanism than the referendum debt. The referendum debt, as was pointed out, is an option available to the board up to $600,000. The action taken on Monday night technically was taking money from a different direction than the electoral debt envisioned by the referendum. And that was the pleasure of the board to do so. There's nothing wrong with that. So technically, the route that you've taken is slightly different than the referendum. Nothing wrong with it. It's up to the board to decide. And as was pointed out by J.D. Schlesinger from PFM Monday night, by taking action for this, I'll say roughly $13.5 million or some odd dollars on Monday night, if the board, for financial reasons, business judgment, decides that you do not want to use that $600,000 for Wares Dam, but instead allocate existing township funds and apply that $600K to another purpose as authorized by law, as authorized by the bond issue, or put it back into escrow, which was an option that he presented as well. Those are all options on the table. You could, in fact, if you chose to do so, and I'm not advocating one way or the other, but technically, because the debt you undertook on Monday through the bond issue was not the electoral debt through the referendum, you could technically still pursue that electoral debt option at another time if you choose to do so.
Thank you, Solicitor Zager. I would just like to make one clarification. You touched on this, but for the board, I read it earlier. We approved the $600,000 to be used for Wares Dam and or other capital projects. Just for the record, that was the vote that we took.
I think,
Let me just, if I may. The reason we categorized the $600,000 as capital improvements was to facilitate the loan itself. We were, am I correct, Scott? There was actually a request to categorize the $600,000 as capital improvements rather than the Wares Dam.
So part of the reason for that is we don't know if that project is going to take place in 2022 or 2023 or whatever it may be. So in the event that the board at that time, if it's a different board, chose to move forward with the project or not, that language that's in the bond issuance gives the most latitude for the project. So we have to legally spend 85% of the funds within 3 years. So in the event that it's Wares Dam or not, that money should be spent within 3 years. So various capital projects gives us and gives you as the board the most broad latitude to be able to comply with those requirements.
can I make a suggestion? I think what you're looking, and that was the reason what Scott just said is, you know, we talked about the concern, say something happens with permit issues or something that it doesn't happen within 3 years. I don't see that happening, but just say it does. That's what Commissioner Walk was getting at. It was referred to as a capital project and or Wares Dam. I think I hear you in that you want to ensure that the intention is to earmark $600,000 towards Wares Dam. Now, whether or not we earmark it from that bond money or we earmark it internally, however you would do that, is that a better way to look at it, saying it's, instead of saying it has to come from our bond, or could it come from our reserve?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the reserve we have right now is 200,000.
no, I'm talking our general. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're looking, if I understand you correctly, you're looking to ensure that $600,000, should we get to a point to be able to move forward with that project, has been reserved for that project. Okay. So is it possible that we can earmark $600,000 without saying it's coming from the bond?
Well, my question would be, we had money in a restricted fund for Ware's Dam last year. On May 20th, there was a vote of this board to unrestrict that money, to which Commissioner Sexton agreed to move that money and unrestrict it. So the restriction is only as good as the board.
No, we re-restricted it.
We did end up re-restricting, but at that time, there was a restricted fund. There was a vote of this board to take the restriction off, put the money back in the general fund. So we can restrict it today and next week.
I believe I wrote that summary. I went through the Board of Commissioner meeting minutes for the entire 2020 and 2021. I was asked the question, what is the status of that restricted money? So I went into every single BOC meeting and I wrote exactly what happened at each meeting. And Commissioner Kelly is correct. At one point in time, about this time last year, actually, there was a proposal to unrestrict it, and the board took a vote, and it was unrestricted. But then in a subsequent action, when we created the 2021 budget, we decided to restrict it. And Commissioner Kelly asked Solicitor Zader, do we need a separate meeting in order to do that? And Solicitor Zader says, no, you don't. You're making a motion to approve the 2021 budget, which has $200,000 restricted funds in it. And that's what it is. So the summary I'd like to give relative to Commissioner Stetton's request. We have a cost estimate that Ware's Dam is going to cost $600,000. That is at least the approximate cost estimate that Michael Baker gave us. That's equal to the same amount in the referendum. The monies available are $200,000 in the restricted fund we just discussed. There's, I think, Randy, another tentative $200,000 that might come available from a grant. And if the $600,000 is correct, we only need another $200,000 to fund Ware's Dam. Of course, these are all estimates. With that, with those facts, I don't see the reason why we would restrict the $600,000 only to be used for Ware's Dam. I think the language we came up with 2 days ago that went into the bond is suitable and adequate. And I don't know why we're revisiting it just 2 days later.
So what I suggested was to restrict $600,000 for the renovations of the Ware's Dam and any leftovers to go to capital improvements. I did mention that. So if it does cost $200,000, then the rest of it goes to capital improvements. Simple as that.
It seems to me, that might be a semantic issue. It seems to me that the language that we agreed on Monday, that I believe is going to be written into the bond, is the same as what you're suggesting right now. We said we're funding $600,000 to be used for Ware's Dam and or capital projects. I don't know why we need to make another statement 2 days later that provides additional definition and or restrictions on that money.
Did it reference Ware's Dam? The language?
I'm only referring to our discussion.
Yeah, I just want to see what gets considered into the ordinance, the language.
Per Moody's, it says the proceeds of these Series 2021 bonds will be used to provide for certain township improvements. So that is the language.
Doesn't specifically say where.
Correct.
Like the flexibility you indicated.
Correct.
And what, so your concern, is your concern that you just want to make sure that $600,000 is tagged towards Ware's Dam if we need it?
So it's not pulled from the reserves.
Right.
It's available for day one when we work on it.
Well, we haven't even established our budget yet, so we don't know reserves or what capital projects we're looking at next week. This seems a bit premature to talk about what reserve money we will or won't use in general.
I agree.
You're referencing reserve funds, but we haven't even signed on a budget nor presented.
No.
You just said,
You talking about the bond, talking about the bond.
you said reserve funds, but I was answering the question.
I actually think Commissioner Kelly makes a good point. We're 2 days downstream of the Monday meeting where we made this agreement. And it's next Tuesday. We're going to have a wholesale discussion about all of this. What are the monies available for capital projects? What are the proposed capital projects? How many are we going to do? What's the priority for them? Where are we going to draw the line? How much are we going to draw down the fund balance, if at all? How much surplus from 2021 is available to carry over into 2022? I suggest I appreciate the intent, but I suggest we table it until after Tuesday.
Well, point of order, motions on the floor, so it would be up to the person who made the motion to make that.
To either pull it.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
We're having.
We're still having the discussion.
So I'm saying it would be up to him whether he wants to table that.
Well, that's why I made my comment to Commissioner
What?
Seton for his consideration.
Okay, can I just, why don't we, since there is value in finishing up the discussion on the budget and the allocation of monies, once we know exactly what we have in the budget. You'll still have an opportunity after we go through the budget and make any allocations, should you want to make a future motion for this specific to do that, that wouldn't come off the table. But once we go through those budgets and decide on the proper allocations of the money, maybe we can cover it there. Are you comfortable with that?
I'll withdraw my.
Okay. All right. So moving forward. I forgot where we were. Community development.
We have a comment from the,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Ware.
I was not planning on addressing this tonight. I was hoping to get an ongoing improved understanding of the landscape and the history of this. This referendum was obviously voted on by the citizens approximately 5 years ago. It was a relatively short referendum asking for the opinion of the community to improve or repair the Ware's Dam. Also for a price estimated to be up to $600,000 for the appropriate improvements. Referendum was about 5 or 7 lines. It seems 5 years later, there continues to be some wavering as to what's sourced from the township offers that this project will be completed. I'd like to hope that the board could make a decision to confirm that the $600,000 funding will be available once the appropriate permits are completed. And this would seem to be enough flexibility to confirm that within the budgeting process.
Thank you, sir. That's exactly the discussion we'll have Tuesday. I think that's what Commissioner Seton is hoping to confirm and get validated as well. All right. Anybody else in public? right, community development.
Randy, did you want to?
Commissioner Morgan, I just had a really brief report. I can gladly do it.
I would shift you to last,
That's
giving your team a chance to talk first.
This will be.
I don't want you stealing any thunder from any of them.
Dave, I'm just gonna run through the website real quick.
All right. So he's gonna go, he took it. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to take a very brief moment to share some improvements we've made to our website to make it easier to locate our agendas, minutes, and recordings. So when you're on our homepage here, simply hover over Board of Commissioners, click on the Board of Commissioners page. And if you just scroll down here, everything is in a table format. You can see the meeting date here in this line, the agendas, and the minutes as well. Furthermore, if you were to click on the actual event, let's just click on Board of Commissioners here. This will take you to another page, which you can access the meeting recording. So if you go ahead and click that, it takes you right to the Township's YouTube page, which you can see all the meeting minutes.
Welcome to the September 15th meeting of South Carolina Township Board of
So I just wanted to take a real brief second there to overview that and give a big kudos to Rob Fainal in our IT department and thank him for all of his hard work. We're going to be continuing to work on the other boards and commissions as well to continue that table format moving forward.
I'll say, Randy, I was on the website today. It's really.
We're getting there. We're paying a lot of attention to it and trying to keep it fresh with new information and improving it where we can.
Very nice, thank you.
I just had a comment, Randy. Thank you for that. Rob's done an amazing job, even just in the last month. My only question is, I don't know if it's intuitive enough for people to go to the Board of Commissioners to look for that information. Is there, and I don't want to put more work on him, but a way to put, instead of those little circles, put a button there that would direct people in, whether it says meeting information or whatnot, to make it a little bit more.
We could probably.
First time visitors, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, we could probably make it specific to one board, but to link it to all the boards and commissions, probably would, are you suggesting like
the Board of Commissioners.
minutes? Just, okay.
There's if you go to I believe it's on the boards and commissions page, just click that. I believe there's a calendar. All of the board and commission events on it. And then from there, you can link to, that picture. You can link directly to a specific meeting from that calendar. So that's another way to access it. And the way the website's set up, there's so many different ways to access things. So that's one of the ways when we designed it, we put boards and commissions to have that one-stop shop for all the meetings available on that one account. And then if you scroll backwards to past meetings, that's how you'll get the link to the YouTube.
To be archived.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you.
The other piece that Rob has been working on is the YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel, there's actually playlists. So if you click on YouTube, you go to playlists, every board for every meeting category, so Board of Commissioners has a whole playlist of all of the meetings listed in order. So we spent a lot of work on that here. Here's the playlist.
That sounds riveting. I
So-
think I'm gonna make that my favorite playlist. Absolutely.
That's also pretty easy.
It would probably be
So
like
we're very excited.
weeks long playlist.
Yes, yes, if I'm bored in my car or, yeah, absolutely.
There's about
Yeah, yeah,
POC.
yeah.
I have a quick question since everyone's here. I've looked for this, and it was always available and I can't find it anymore. Are we still producing like the user-friendly printable BOC meeting agenda?
So,
Board docs, you mean?
well, it should
Yeah,
be,
because if you go in from the public, there's no document to click on that you can print.
So
It sends you to board docs.
Right, if you go to board docs, it's, I think from right there, if you hit print,
If you hit the print right
it's
here.
the simple
I don't
version.
know if you can see this. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
super small. But the top left tab right here, you can see detailed agenda, and the public can do this too. I'm signed in as a public member right now. So you could do the simple agenda, which is the very basic stuff that we typically print out. But if you did click the detailed agenda, that's where you would find additional information for each agenda.
Thank you so much.
The simple agenda is what's linked to from the website.
Correct.
So it's just that one page.
Right.
So a connecting question to this is, I know about a year and a half ago or so, we purchased Granicus to do our, instead of board docs, we're going to switch over to Granicus, and I know we're not there yet, but is there a timeline for, because that will change all of this, and it's going to be totally different format.
It will change the board docs. That will go away. It'll be similar to how the calendar is set up with the meeting list, link to agenda, link to minutes. That will be a plug-in from the, I always forget the name, a lot of names for pieces of it. But Peak, so it'll be a Peak drop-in, and it has a table that links to the video, and then it will bring up the platform where you can like click the minutes and bring it right to the tag video. So that piece will look kind of similar as a table. You can link to the meeting.
Very good, thank you. Is that your presentation?
No.
Dave, the floor is yours.
See what happens, Randy? You should have let him go first.
Imagine a world. So just community development monthly report. Special projects, we're working on comprehensive plan. We were trying to get meeting dates for planning commission workshops. It's like, we're going to discuss it at Thursday's meeting, but it's likely to start in 2022. But in all the meetings and everything, it's just, and the holidays coming up. It makes sense to just extend that. Just to review boards and commissions, Plan Commission, the 16th, September 16th, we had Duncan Allentown drive-through. There was no action taken under advisement. Long's Water Technology was also no action under advisement. Rich Farm, also no action under advisement. The meeting Thursday, we have the proposed commercial development on 309, which is the Wawa. And then we also have Ridge Farm on tomorrow's meeting. Zoning Hearing Board, the September meeting was canceled. On the October 27th meeting, we have Wawa. It's also going to the Zoning Hearing Board for variances. Landscape and Shade Tree met in September and October. Kind of gonna breeze through here. Permits. Lately, I've just been saying we've been really busy with permits. I'm gonna start making an effort to provide numbers. In September, we had 63 residential permits. These are applications. And then once they come in as applications, they go through various stages of the permit. 26 non-residential permits. And then the department also, through the permitting process, we also handle some public works permits, so right-of-way permits, active permits. So we had 35 public works permits. Also in community development, we had enforcement. Investigations in September included 24. The biggest of those were litter and junk, noise, and high grass and weeds, and then zoning investigation. That concludes my report.
Excellent.
Wow.
Any questions for Dave from the board?
My only question would be, if it's not too much trouble, could you attach that, at least all the permits and enforcement to the agenda for us? Because that's something that I.
Yeah, I kind of just did it this afternoon.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's
And
great.
what I was thinking of doing is putting everything together quarterly and then presenting that, so you have numbers to compare to.
Excellent, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything in the chat, Dave? I'm gonna give you a chance to jump over there.
No.
No, all right. Finance, Scott.
The September 2021 financials are in your inbox. We are reporting income in the general fund year-to-date as $14.95 million in revenue, with $8.97 million in expenses. We do expect to end the year with a $700,000 surplus of revenues over expenses. We have one final budget workshop meeting on the 26th that Commissioner Walk highlighted. We will discuss the ARPA funding, our capital budget, our overall general fund budget, as well as the fire fund budgets. We've had some interviews with various candidates for the Assistant Director of Finance position. Our decision may be a difficult one due to the strong nature of the candidate. However, we are confident that we are headed in the right direction. As for our bonds, they will be sold tomorrow. So that's a very exciting time. I'm very pleased to announce that Moody's has assigned us with a AA2 rating, which is the third highest bond rating that we could get. So AA2 is where we have our standing, which I believe will lead to a very, very wonderful interest rate and a good thing for us. The ratings rationale states, this is from Moody's, in their press release, they mentioned that the AA2 rating reflects the township's moderately sized tax base with strong wealth indicators. The township's financial position has been notably stable with robust operating margins providing for sizable transfers to capital reserve. Despite losing significant amusement tax revenue in 2020 due to coronavirus-related closures, the township was able to cut expenditures and maintain structural balance indicative of strong operating flexibility. The AA2 rating also reflects the township's low debt burden, somewhat offset by a slightly elevated pension liability. Governance is a key credit consideration. The township has strong controls in place as evidenced by consistent performance and prudent reserves. They have outlined a few factors that lead to an upgrade of the rating, just FYI in the future. Things that can lead to an upgrade include material improvement in fund balance and liquidity, and material growth and diversity of the tax base. Factors that could lead to a downgrade in the rating on the other side include structurally imbalanced operations that could lead to sustained reserve draws and a material increase to our fixed costs. That is all.
Scott, thank you. I want to.
We're very excited about the bonds.
We should be very excited about that. And I'd like to note, not just for this board that's in front of you today, but for previous boards, we've worked very, very hard over the years as a township to build up those reserves and get ourselves in a position where we can get a bond rating that you just mentioned. So kudos to the entire staff, to this board, to previous boards and administrations, because that's not something that just happened this year. That happened over a multitude of years and building up that type of assets. So great job. Any questions for Scott?
I will also let you know, as soon as we know what the interest rate is and how the sale pans out tomorrow, I'm going to send an email to the board probably before the end of the day.
Great, thank you. Any questions in chat?
No.
All right, looked twice there, thought for a second. You sure, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Mike, Park and Rec. Lots of exciting things happening.
Absolutely, always.
We have a truckload of candy ready to go.
We do.
All right, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I hope you can join us this Friday for our spectacular, which you already mentioned. We partnered up with the library to put this event on for the community. The first meeting we had with the library, we were talking about how many trumps for year one would be success. 12, maybe 20, let's shoot for 20. And we're up to 47 right now. I'm hoping.
Wow.
So big response from the community, from businesses. Should be a really great night on Friday if you're able to make it out. I know some of you were at Fall Fest just a week or so ago here, and that too was a great first time event for the township. So very busy this fall, pulling things together. Coming up this winter, obviously, the tree and bridge lighting is on Saturday, December 4th. We're also adding in a candy cane hunt, like the Easter egg hunt for kids prior to that event, which will be a new kind of draw for the community and for residents to come out. So please mark your calendars and join us for that as well. On the more admin side
That
of
was
things,
funny. What happens if it snows? How do we do a candy cane hunt in the snow?
even better.
Oh,
I've done it
very
before.
nice. I get to pay for it. All right.
I'm also happy to report that the Park Rec Open Space and Trails Plan RFP and Flood Mitigation RFP are both out on Penn Bid. We'll be closing at the end of this month, and we're still hopeful to award both those projects this year.
Any questions for Mike from the board? Any from the public? Looking forward to this weekend. All right.
Anything in the chat?
Yes.
Anything in the chat?
Yes, there is.
Wait a minute. Go ahead.
This is Jeff Ward. Is the total bond issue 15.1 million?
No,
No,
it's 13.1.
13.1. And then
I can
A,
email Jeff details if he wants.
okay. AA2 Moody's, question mark. Yes. Okay, that's it.
All right, thank you. All right. Herb. I see those bleep trucks out. Way to go, Herb.
All right, we'll start with the streets department. The paving with H&K is wrapping up. The milling crew will probably be finished by Friday. Total paving of the 2021 plan will be wrapped up Monday, Tuesday at the latest. They will be still here. They just have to do some sealing along curb lines and stuff like that, but the actual paving and milling will be completed. We are out on doing leaf collection. We have been through the whole township twice already. We are also concentrating on sweeping of the township. I know in the past we had weeds growing in the curb lines and everything, so we have went to a different gutter broom on the sweeper that will eliminate these weeds right away. So I figured while we're hitting every road in the township, we might as well put these brooms on and accomplish two things at one time. The Parks Department, they're mulching the leaves in the park. We're actually in the process. We started today testing the Christmas lights. We have reserved our 2 lifts today also, and we will start installing the lights that cover Bridge Park around October 25th. It does take about 3 to 4 weeks to get them all up. We just finished up at Jacoby Park, so the new playground's in, the mulch is in. We have a couple trees that we have to take care of yet, and in the spring, the basketball court, but the new picnic table area is in, the new playground is in, and new mulch for the swing bed also, so it is open for the kids to come out and enjoy. On the water side, we have the pre-construction meeting is set for October 27th at 7 p.m. with Pioneer Construction. We have also passed out letters to the residents that have to have the water line done with their new service line to be relocated. We have worked with Joe. He got us the papers we needed. They will hopefully all come to that meeting so we can get their signatures, our signature, and Pioneer's signature on there. So that will be taken care of then. We're also getting ready to start installing some of the sample stations at our dead ends, which we do have a 4-year program. We started it last year. This will be the 2nd year. And we will have all our dead ends with a sample station, and we will be in complete compliance. And along with that, we're doing our routine maintenance in our stations and our water sample. Sewer, we're working with USG on all the cast in place repairs. They will be here for about another 2 to 3 weeks yet, and then that project will be wrapped up for the year also. On the MS4 side, we just finished our quarterly inspections of Ware's Dam and Arch Street's Dam. That is done by Nick Fitzgerald. He goes out, takes a full report, reports back to me if we need anything that needs to be done, and we take care of it in-house then. And he is going to be starting all the outfall inspections tomorrow. So then we can compile a list of what has to be done for our MS4 permit and what repairs have to be done there also. And then we'll prioritize how we can try to get these accomplished. They are great jobs to do in the winter, since the ground's not going to be mushy, it's going to be frozen. So we can accomplish those throughout the week. That's all I have.
Thank you so much. Lots going on in Public Works. Any questions from the board for her? Any in the chat? None? Any from the audience? None? All right. A very special guest with us tonight. Ms. Florentino. This is very exciting.
Oh, boy.
What do you have for us from the police?
I'm very excited.
You are very exciting.
Our stats for September 21 over 22, I'm sorry, over 20. We had 1,010 calls this year. Last year we had 1,024 in September. It's a decrease of 14 calls. However, year to date, we've had 10,328 incident reports. Last year was 9,390 with an increase of 938. Probably had a little bit to do with COVID, but we're getting back on track. Our arrests are up. Some of our places of business are open a little bit more than they had been last year, so that probably accounted for that. However, year-to-date arrests are down by 20. That's a good thing for everybody.
Absolutely.
As far as other things within the department, as you can tell, some people like Sergeant Donner have a fairly clean shaven face. Others of us have distinguished marks on our face. We started No Shave November, which is half of October, November, December. The officers donating to a cause which we determined at a later date.
Wait a minute, you don't shave from October to December?
Yes, ma'am.
January. Wouldn't it be like down to here? I mean, that's.
Well, we still have our grooming standards, which are, we won't allow the ZZ top beards.
Really?
However, if they're properly groomed, then we can, like Commissioner Long or Commissioner Sutton, whichever everybody chooses. Either way, sir, we'll take your donation for our fundraising.
I love it. It's exciting.
So everybody's excited about that. Our female officers are allowed to do a little bit of different hairstyles and appropriate.
I'm not sure if the No Shave November thing should apply to the women.
Well, most of them are okay because it's cooler outside and we're good with it.
Okay.
But they can dye their hair whichever color they
Whatever
want.
works.
We do the haircut.
Whatever works.
So that was our big thing, but we have 5 weeks completed on our Citizens Police Academy. We're about halfway through. Graduation will be determined at a later date, but they're halfway through. Everybody seems fairly happy with that. As you did mention earlier, the National Drug Take Back Day is this Saturday, and we'll have an officer upstairs either out in the front or in the lobby, depending upon what the weather is, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for people to bring in their medications that they need to get rid of.
We got posted on the website as well.
Yes, but there will be an officer here as well besides that blue box there. And then we have our safe exchange site for the residents, which is right outside the door. And there's a sign there. It's red and white sign, safe exchange for anything that needs to be done under camera. That's it.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions for Captain Sorrentino from the board? From the public? From the chat? All right, Tony, what do you have for us this evening?
Good evening. As per Dave's report, we are working through some of the plans that are being submitted in all planning commissions and boards. All also maybe surprisingly, but with the weather that we've had, we're starting to check through all the sites that are under construction now. See where they're on paving lines, make sure they're aware of the paving stop dates and trying to get them in good shape for winter as it's coming. So we're working to clean up some of those construction sites also.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Any questions for Tony from the board? Any from the public? Any from the chat? All right. So next on our agenda this evening, we do have our October 6th, 2021 Board of Commissioner meeting minutes for consideration and possible action. Are there any questions or comments from the board on the October 6th meeting minutes? Very, very nicely done. If there's no questions from the board, do I hear a motion to move forward? A motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Walk. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Sure, Commissioner Walk? Aye. Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Seton? Aye. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And Commissioner Morgan?
Yes, that's very exciting. Good. Next, we have courtesy of the floor. This is the opportunity for anybody in the audience on the non-agenda item. Anybody?
Nothing in the chat.
All right. That being said, our invoices and purchasing requisitions have been reviewed by the township manager, interim township manager, and the director of finance. I do need a motion to authorize that our checks be issued to pay our bills as tabulated. So moved. We have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second? Second from Commissioner Seton. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Randy?
Commissioner Walk? Aye. Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Seton? Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And Commissioner Morgan?
Yes, motion carries. So I will do a motion for adjournment at this point. The board did talk about going back into executive session to finish our legal discussion from earlier today. So I could hear a motion for adjournment. Motion on the floor from Commissioner Kelly. Do I hear a second? Second from Commissioner Seton. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Have a lovely evening.